costume change. Moving on to the rest of this costume. Aries has cut this out. Aries is my employee. She's over there. She's probably not gonna pop in, or you'll see her in the background. But we're gonna go ahead and get started on this. Let's take a look at the costume first, and then we'll get to sewing. Okay, so here are all of our pieces. We have our brief front, the bra, the brief back, the side insert for the brief, our leg, elastic, as well as the straps for the velvet side of the top. And then we also have the mesh part of the top here that connects to the back. And then we also have the straps that go across the back with the elastic that will be inside. So those are our pieces. Let's get the machines up here and the thread and get to sewing. Okay, so the first things first, we're gonna serge all of our linings to our main pieces, and then we're going to go ahead and start attaching everything. So let's go ahead and do that. Down, clean cap, move down. Okay, so we're gonna start sewing this sucker together. I'm gonna cut off all the little strings, and we'll start with the brief because that's the easiest part. So let's do that. Oh. Are you okay? Scissors in my hand. Okay, so there are multiple ways to make a costume. You can create a lining in itself and then sit it inside your pattern pieces, but what I actually like to do is just serge the lining directly onto each piece so that it's one piece and makes sewing it together a lot easier. Like I said, more than one way to skin a cat. Figure out the way that works for you. This way works for me, so this is how we're gonna do it. So let's attach the insert piece, which is really, really tiny, to the brief back, and then we're going to attach these pieces, and then we'll finish the entire brief. Holy moly. We'll finish the entire brief, and then we'll start on the top. So let's do that right now, hopefully. Here we go. Excuse me, machine. Thank you for the space. We're gonna line up our top of these pieces together. Remember, each of these pieces has a 3/8 inch seam allowance already attached so that we know where that is. So we're gonna go ahead and pin it. I always start pinning at the top so that the top of the brief matches up, as you can see here. I hope you can see. If you see me looking at my watch, it's because I'm actually watching you on my watch. So we're gonna attach that there, and then we're gonna go ahead and take it all the way down to the bottom, and then at the bottom it should end with the mesh and the velvet meeting at the 3/8 seam allowance on the mesh, if that makes sense. We'll see. Hold on. So we've attached that piece to the front piece, the back piece. So now let's stitch that together. I stitch it with a zigzag, so it's a very, very shallow. Hold on, please. This table's like super high because I'm super tall, and the staff cannot use it except for me, so I have to sit here and sew now. So we're gonna set the machine to a narrow zigzag. So I have a FAF. I think I have basically, I don't have the whole line. I have 3 FAF machines. So I have the Expression 710, that's the one that I mostly use. I also have the Passport 3.0 somewhere over there. And then I recently purchased the Passport 2.0 for the staff to use. So yeah, I'm a FAF girl because they have the IDT system, which helps with maneuvering like large amounts of fabric through the machine so that it doesn't get stuck. I'll show you that piece another day. So we're gonna move it to a narrow zigzag. So on this machine, I tend to do it at a 1.2 because the 1 or the 0.5 is just too skinny. On the other machines, I do a 0.5. So change that, moving on. And then we're going to stitch this together at that 3/8 inch mark. So once I do that first seam, I'm gonna go ahead and do the front as well. And then we'll serge both of those seams and then top stitch over both of those. So let's pin the front and then move forward. So now that is attached like so, we're gonna serge these two pieces here and then top stitch. So be right back. So you're gonna fold at that seam, pressing backwards. On a normal, like if you were using a woven, you would actually press that and then top stitch that close. But because we are using Lycra, or better yet, velvet, we can't put an iron to this. So we are going to just hold that seam taut and then top stitch it with the same narrow zigzag. I actually do this at the inside of the, I use the presser foot that has the plastic inside that you can actually see. I actually go to the inside of where I can see, and that's where I sew that line. It typically, I'm pretty sure it's an 1/8, but that's just my own marker. So when you finish, you should have like this action happening here with the top stitch. That way that this lays flat and it doesn't roll into their mesh seam, so you don't see that. Okay, now let's close the actual briefs completely. So now we have a full brief, yes? So what we're gonna do is actually serge. No, we're gonna serge it. So we're gonna serge these pieces together. Once we add the elastic in, we'll lay it to the back so that this lays flat as well, but we don't top stitch this just because when we add the elastics here, it'll hold it that way. Okay, so let's go serge these two seams. Okay, awesome. So when we turn this right side out, you have a beautiful brief. Yes, super easy. Okay, so now let's start adding in our elastic. We'll start with the leg elastic. So my pattern called for 2 elastics that were, looks like 15 inches, yes? So we're gonna make this elastic into a loop. So I just folded over about a 1/2 inch and zigzag over it. And I'll do like a back stitch over it and then go forward one more time. Okay. When you finish that, you should have 2 loops ready to go into your legs. So we take our costume right side out. Notice one of these legs has nude. So we're actually going to do this. That's gonna be annoying. We're gonna do it anyway because I don't like seeing color stitching or color thread in the nude. I need it to like actually have a nude appearance. Okay, so we're gonna change fun times. Change this to nude thread. So we're gonna use a zigzag stitch to attach our elastic, but it's gonna be a wider zigzag. So we are going to do our zigzag at a length of 5 and a width of 6, just so it's a large zigzag. And we're going to attach it starting at the crotch seam. I'm gonna roll this towards the back and then pin this here. Then we're gonna stretch this so that we know where this elastic should sit. Okay, so I'm gonna take my part off so that I can get to the free arm. And again, we're just gonna wide zigzag this elastic onto the costume. Attach that. Hopefully you can see that. Please don't mind my nails if you can see the broken ones. You can attach that there, and it has that wide elastic, that wide stitch there for the elastic to sit. Yes? Okay, so let's do the other side. So that is attached, like so, yes? So you'll see in a second why I didn't want to use maroon on that part. So now we're actually going to stitch a little bit of this in the tan because it's only gonna be this little corner because we cannot top stitch the actual other part in the maroon. So let's just flip this over here, and we're just gonna top stitch just this section in the tan. So we're gonna switch stitches to a stitch I called the cover stitch. It's an overcast stitch, but it's just like a zigzag into like straight stitches. It looks like a cover stitch, but I'm using one needle and it's on a sewing machine. So just that part we did in the tan. Does that make sense? Okay, great. Okay, so using that same cover stitch, we're gonna close up the rest of the legs, and then we'll close up the waistband. See? So then that seam is closed, and this elastic is still in nude, while that is in maroon. And that is why we switched threads, people, because it's tacky to have different color mesh with different color thread during your seams. Can't do it. Okay, so the bottoms of our briefs are complete. Yep. Okay, so now we have to add elastic into the top, and then the briefs are done. So the client's waist, I have to get the iPad because I'm currently using the phone to record. Give me 1 second. Ooh. I'm gonna die. I'm not gonna die. Waist is a 21 inch. So we're going to cut a 1/2 inch elastic, 1/2 inch, just because it's sturdier. We're gonna cut a 1/2 inch elastic at, let's do 19.5, so it keeps it taut at her waist. So we should have our loop here. Yes, okay, so we're gonna take this, we're gonna put the loop against, or the seam, because I don't like these seams to be like very visible, so I put them inside a seam. So since this seam is rolled back, we're gonna make sure that we roll the other side back as well. So let's actually turn this right side out, inside out. Roll this seam towards the back again, pin this, same way we did the legs. Keeping it taut while we sew it down. My machine tells me when my bobbin thread is low, but I really think we can make it through that little bitty piece that we have to top stitch. So we're gonna try without having to rethread that bobbin, because heck no. Okay, we made it. Ooh, just barely made it too. Okay, so we have completed briefs. Oh, thread, hold up. Try to trim as you go, so you try to keep your project as clean as possible. But yes, so there is our completed brief. Okay, so we're gonna set that aside and move on to the top.